All right, we're here with Bernard Tobin, the Ontario correspondent for RealAgriculture.com, and we are following up from our earlier discussion about the Ontario horse racing industry because just last week OMAFRA did release their, the government panel did release their recommendations on where the Ontario horse racing industry goes from here after the Slots at Racetrack program ends end of March. So, Bern, tell us a little bit about what was in that report.
Well, Lyndsey, the panel came back with basically a framework or a structure for how the industry could be sustainable and how it could look in the future. You know, a lot of loose ends, a lot of unanswered questions, but basically the panel basically said that the thoroughbred industry could go forward pretty much looking the same amount, similar number of race dates. We're going to lose a little bit of racing in the B level at Fort Erie. Okay. But unfortunately, on the standardbred side, they're seeing a 54% reduction in race dates and a 54% reduction of racing at the A level. That is the Mohawks and the Woodbines. So basically, that would kill standardbred racing if this report, as it is, was enacted. That's the question now. Where do we go with this? The bottom line is that this report is, as the panel said, it's a framework for negotiation. Right. What is in this report and what actually gets enacted may be very different.
Right, and because these are recommendations, these are discussion points. This is not policy or law or anything like that. These are talking points of saying this is how they would foresee this. But I'm sort of surprised at the incredible cutback at that A level, as you said, like Woodbine and Mohawk Raceway and those sorts of things on the standardbred side. I mean, that's a significant reduction. I mean, how do you meet halfway on that? Because that's pretty significant.
Well, I mean, the initial reaction from the horse racing industry was, egad, what's happening with standardbreds? The bottom line if you look at the public policy here, it is to maintain jobs and to maintain the industry. And if you look at standardbred racing, it's much larger than than thoroughbred racing. Yes. Many more horses, many more jobs, much more infrastructure. So that for people looking at this, that didn't make a lot of sense if you're trying to maintain jobs and look at it from a public policy perspective. The other thing that people thought about was, hey, world-class racing. They want to maintain world-class racing. Well, the reality is that standardbreds in Ontario are world-class. They can compete at a world level. Thoroughbreds cannot. No. Thoroughbreds can race against, Ontario thoroughbreds can race against Ontario thoroughbreds, but they're not world-class. So that kind of idea is lost as well. So again, John Snoblin, who's a member of the panel, said, hey, guys, this is our best guess. This is a document for negotiation. You guys now got to get in a room and figure this out.
Yeah. So now who are the players then that would get in that room and figure this out? Are we talking like who then can shape these recommendations into something that's going to make a little more sense, especially on the standardbred side?
Well, that's a big question. The people who are probably going to be in that room mostly are racetracks, the government, and the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Association. Basically, how it's structured, the tenet of this recommendation is that the racetracks will negotiate with the OLG for slots. So basically, we go to March 31st. A lot of these slots have nowhere to go. The OLG would love to get them out of there, put them in a casino in Toronto, but that's a long way off.
Yeah,
so
there isn't one. Yeah.
Basically, the OLG has to go back and negotiate with the racetracks, and the racetracks will try to get as much as they can out of these guys, and that money will go to manage, operate the racetracks, the facility, those operations. The other part of that is, as the panel recommended, is that all the money that goes into the betting that should be funneled to the purses for racing. Okay. So the challenge now over the next month, and has to be done in December, is all the racetracks have to get in, negotiate with the OLG, get their share of the slots. Yeah. Then they'd have to decide if they want to race next year. Do they have enough money to put on racing? Do they want to put on racing? And then submit dates by the end of the year for which, then you have a racing calendar.
Yeah.
And that all has to happen in the next 3 weeks. And of course, the horse people are sitting on the side going,
what do we do?
What's going to happen? Will there be enough dates?
Yeah.
Do these racetracks want to race?
Yeah. Now, what do you, I mean, on maybe some of the commentary opinion side, I mean, we talked earlier about, some tracks that likely are going to close or that's really already happened. Do you see that rationalization, do you see more tracks closing out of this, or is it really a wait and see, for December to see what sort of race days get put together and that sort of stuff? Is this really going to be, is this the decision time as to which tracks stay open and which close?
I think it is. I mean, each track basically is going to have to negotiate with the OLG to see if they're going to have slots and what type of revenue they're going to be able to get from that. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to be able to decide whether they've got enough to run their own facilities and if they have enough to either contribute or put on racing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be, we're going to determine pretty quickly about what racetracks are in and what racetracks are out. Yeah. And I think that's going to happen pretty quickly because it has to. Racetracks have to determine whether they want to race next year. So, the Ontario Racing Commission can put together a business plan for the year, just like any other business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's what surprises me is the quick timeline. There's not a lot of time here to figure this out, and it sounds like there's many different players and many things to determine. So, goodness.
Well,
yeah,
it's a funny thing. I mean, I think Mr. Snowblin, who was interviewed, basically said, this is our best guess because we don't have any information. We don't have enough information, and I think it just really speaks to the fact that the Ontario Liberal government got some bad advice here.
Yeah.
To be able to to try to rationalize these, pull slots out and reinvent, come up with a plan for this industry and this timeline. I mean, everybody's backpedaling here. The whole idea was, originally, racing would go on regardless. Yeah. But of course, that became evident that wasn't going to be the case. Mm-hmm. And now, the slots program is going to end in March. Everything has to be settled away until before then. Where will these slots go? I mean, I think the OLG is figuring out that they really don't have anywhere to take them. Yes. So they're going back to the racetracks. And we may end up with casinos, but that's, maybe years down the road. So it's a tough one. And there's going to be a lot of people looking at each other in the whites of their eyes and trying to sort this out over the next, I think, you probably won't get a real good picture of this until March, when that's when the dollars start to add up and go one way or the other.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll check back again as this develops and try and keep a beat on what next year's racing season and for the next several racing seasons is going to look like. So thank you so much, Bern, and we'll talk again.
Thank you.